Good day and greetings from Pretoria, South Africa. My name is Dr. Charles Cotter. I'm an independent learning practitioner. I'd like to welcome you to episode 4 of Talking to the Titans of Training. Today we have a very special guest joining us all the way from Singapore, Dr. Raman Attri. He's an international trainer with over 25 years of experience. We'll get to him very shortly. In fact, he'll be joining us very shortly. If we could just get the digital housekeeping under the road. My name is Dr. Charles Cotter. I have over 19 years of industry experience in global talent development. I'm an accredited trusted trainer with a global quality assurance authority, course conductor. And the initiative of the Titans of Training was motivated by the belief that trainers often don't get the recognition and the respect that they deserve. So this is a series of interviews, online conversations in which the innovators, the powerhouses, and also the loyal servants of the industry have an opportunity to share their career journey in this very cutthroat training industry with us, and then also to provide us advice of how to succeed in this very competitive industry. So at this point, I'd like to take the opportunity to welcome my guest to episode 4 of Talking to the Titans of Training, all the way from Singapore, Dr. Raman Attri. Dr. Raman is a global trainer with over 25 years of industry experience. He's also a prolific author, over 18 books, and also the mastermind of the Speed to Proficiency methodology. And I'm sure you'll be sharing the details of that very shortly. And also a very inspirational, motivational speaker. I would strongly advise that you check out some of his YouTube video clips, very inspirational. So Raman, thank you for joining us, and thank you for the time and effort all the way from Singapore. Welcome to episode 4 of the Titans of Training.
Thank you so much, Dr. Cotter. It is really my pleasure to be on your show. There are not many shows out there who focus on the lives of professional trainers. So I think you are doing this great job. Really appreciate you for that.
Great. No, it's wonderful. Thanks for that positive feedback. And thank you for taking the time and effort to join us. So Dr. Raman, we'll get cracking straight away. So we've established you have over 25 years of industry experience in global talent development, currently based in Singapore. So perhaps you could turn back the clock. Perhaps you could take us back to the genesis, where this journey in this industry all started 25 years back. So the who, the what, the when, and also who were some of the inspirational mentors and coaches who had a very pivotal role in your career journey, who guided you, nurtured you. Perhaps you could share some of those early stories of the early days of Dr. Raman Attri in the global training industry.
Thank you so much. It will be my pleasure if I could share some of the bits from my journey. Thank you so much. So I guess my training career started very early. Fundamentally, I loved learning. When I was in high school and later in my engineering college days, though I was not the most brilliant student in the class, I noticed that most of the classmates used to come to me to learn lots of concepts from me. And that was early 1990s back in India. And that was the time I realized that I had some techniques that can help people learn faster and better. My career and how I landed up in learning and training domain, that has been quite full of surprises. When I graduated from my university as an engineer in 1994 in India, I went on to join a very small training center. Imagine in 1990s where all that tech stuff was happening, people thought engineering degree is a ticket to a US or a big multinational corporation, or at least somebody can get decent salary. But I chose to earn $50 a month. I guess I needed some time to figure out the direction and the passion, what I really wanted. So at heart, I can say I'm an explorer. I wanted to explore things. I wanted to know more. I wanted to research more and probably discover something. With that intention, I joined a premier research organization as a scientist. There I served for about 10 years. Now, foundational passion will bring you to the stream you really want to go to. And incidentally, after 5 years in that organization, I was moved into the training department of that organization. And that department was set up with the help of Switzerland. So it was a fantastic vocational training organization, skill-based, one of the best in India. So I must mention, kind of alongside before I landed up in that role, I was doing a lot of volunteering work, advisory, consulting work related to personal and professional training. So training has actually already gone deeper into my overall thinking process. So I think my tenure when I started serving at Swiss-based training organization, that completely put me into the path of being a training and learning professional. First, it opened up doors for me to move to Europe and later on to the whole world. And that was a high point of time in my life when I quit that organization and I joined a multinational corporation, which is a $25 billion US based company in semicon space. So again, I served on engineering position for a very short time before they realized this guy is meant to be in training profession. So I was given this job to move the training center from California to Singapore. And this training center is one of the top 5 training organizations in the world as recognized by Training Magazine. So for the last 13 years, that's where I have been. So as time passed, I felt I need to be a better training leader, not just a management leader. And that's where I went on to do my 2 doctorates in training and learning. I researched this area, how organization can shorten time to proficiency. So that's how I landed from a small $50 trainer to a trainer who could research in learning field. But along the way, unfortunately, I didn't have any mentor. So I depended a lot more on my own research skill to mentor myself. But my journey has been quite kind of full of surprises all this while.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Thanks, Dr. Raman. Thanks for sharing that with us. I was just taking a few notes as you were just recounting your initial journey, this transition from initially starting out in India, very humble beginnings, very low key, and then, via Europe transitioning to probably the global economy, the hub at the moment in Singapore, and also very significant that you constantly refer to the value and the importance of research and to have this exploratory mindset, this curious mindset, and then also the importance of fulfilling your destiny. It's almost as if from a very young age, even your childhood, your school years, you had this curiosity and you had the self-belief that these learning and development techniques are useful, and you initially helped your peers, and now you've transitioned to this global platform where you can share your research findings, you can share your expertise with the global learning and development community. So I think it's very inspirational how you were able to transition, and it's quite alarming that no strong influence of mentors. So would that still be prevalent today? You don't seem to have a mentor coach. Is it something that you felt could have perhaps made a difference in your career if you had that positive?
Agree. Being mentor, I think, is unparalleled. One of the research findings during my doctorate was I was doing this research on how organization can shorten time to expertise of people, of their employee. And one of the practice which 85 global leaders shared with me is you have to have an ecosystem where you have not only one mentor but a series of mentor, because one mentor may be good in one area, other mentor possibly can give you understanding about something else. So you're going to need to have a network of coaches, network of mentors. In today's environment, there is a lot of content out there are a lot of things happening around us, there's so much to absorb. So I think in today's context it's very important that we have some mentor. It always going to accelerate your journey toward where you want to go.
Yeah, agreed. So this network. I love your choice of word. This network. You need to surround yourself with that. And again, this accelerates your personal and also your professional development. So Dr. Raman, you had a very impressive and illustrious career in learning and development. If you had to pinpoint 3 highlights, if you had to say these are the 3 career-defining moments in your very illustrious career, what would they be? And also, if I could double up on that question, what do you say are the critical success factors again, if you could contain it to three, which would then attribute your longevity, 25 years of prospering in this industry, what would you say are the critical success factors, and what would you say are some of your career highlights?
That's a great question, Dr. Cotter, really. Permit me to answer this in a more integrated fashion because my critical success factors are ones which led to some unique highlights I mentioned as well. Uh, while I reflect back on my career, I think there are three critical success factors that made me what I am professionally today, or how I have grown through that journey. Number one is what I feel is my love for learning. That's my first critical success factor. I'm a learner, a non-stop learner. I remember when I was in the 8th standard, I used to read Dale Carnegie's books. And imagine kids at that age, they typically read comics. So during course of my life, while still being in full-time employment, I happened to study several educational and professional credentials. I have earned over 100 international, educational, academic, and professional credentials. That's basically because I love learning so much. And that also include, 2 doctorates, 3 master degrees, and there are a lot of diploma certification I have really taken up. So my love for learning naturally made me aware of a lot of things, that how people really learn or should learn, or what's wrong with the way they are being currently taught or trained. So that inherent feeling to rectify those flaws probably pushed me to, you can say, fueled me to get into this profession, write some books, and also conduct some research. And the research is my second critical success factor, really. Um, I love research. I served as a scientist for about a decade. Now, even if that was a technical job, there was certain thought process and liking I developed for research to explore things, to find reason, to find methods, what works, what doesn't work, why something doesn't work. So eventually, because of that, I went on to do my 2 doctorates. And I wanted to find out how to methods, like how people learn, how people become expert, how people can perform better, how people can accelerate their skills. So the largest part of my professional success in my job comes because of my ability to find framework which can quickly solve a given problem in a given setting, and more so into learning setting, more so into human competence. So it has earned me that credibility and result in my learning career because of my research. Personally, what I believe is trainers and learning specialists must work to acquire certain level of research experience, or at least research outlook. Also because this is a space where we are surrounded by lots of unverified theories, unverified studies, and unrepresented results. And anybody can put a beautiful looking slide and can say it works. So, but we trainer and specialist, learning specialist, we need to go behind the scene to understand where are the evidence. So I think a certain level of research aptitude in trainers and learning specialists will go a long way. It doesn't have to be academic research. It can be just a practice-based research, like you running certain courses, keep gathering the observation, compile it, organize it, analyze it. That becomes your research. So part of this side product of this research is I get a huge amount of sharing content, which I translate into books. And that's my third critical success factor. I love sharing. You know, whatever I find, I can't contain to myself. I need to bring it out. And that's the beauty about being in a learning field, that you can share those things very, very easily. You can make a whole lot difference to people's learning, right? So I said, because of these three factors, because of my love for learning, my research background, and my love for sharing, I think these three critical success factors have worked pretty synchronously with each other. And in fact, it resonated so well with each other, and that's shaped me who I am. And part of this one, the highlights I got during my career is I switched from being a scientist. I was okay, reasonable scientist. From a reasonable scientist, I have transformed myself into quite good learning leader. And part of this one is I am right now serving one of the top 5 training organizations in the world. So that could not have been possible without those 3 contributing factors playing its role in my path.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Thanks, Dr. Raman. Thank you for sharing that with us. Very inspirational. And I totally concur. I agree with you 100%. I think, especially across Africa, which is my primary frame of reference, trainers don't seem to have this research capacity or this competency. And I think it detracts from the impact and the value. The transfer of learning, I think, tends to be compromised. We tend to be good entertainers. We tend to be very good in the training room, but like you said, that transfer of learning. So I think it also ties up very nicely with what some of our other titans of training have also mentioned. This love, this passion, very important. In your case, this love for learning, this love for research. I think generating as much research intelligence as possible. I think I said it in a previous episode. The trainers tend to be very good at replicating the models of others, but they're not very good at generating their own learning intelligence, their own research intelligence. And I think you've amplified the need for that. And also, the common denominator, when I listen to what you're saying and some of our other titans, is that this abundance mindset, this willingness to share. Not just to keep all of this research intelligence, this learning intelligence to themselves, but to be liberators of learning and to share that for the good of not only the community that we serve, but also, to facilitate this transfer of learning. And I think the words that you in particular mentioned, performance, learning as a vehicle to performance improvement, but also to building not only capacity, but also building competence. And I don't think the training community, the global training community, is doing enough of that. So I think you're setting the tone in that regard. And I think, this insatiable, inexhaustible love of learning, I think is very inspirational. Lifelong learning. You tend to continue to practice what you preach. So thank you for that.
I appreciate. My pleasure. And you also mentioned, you kind of complementing the research. So you're right, actually, that as learners, we follow what other studies are saying. But then we forget one thing. We we train people every day. Every day we observe new things. Every day we have a variable we change in our training programs. So what if we capture those variables and observation over the period of, say, 6 months? Now, it's irrefutable data which you can use, process, and probably you can come up with a new model, and then you can say, this model works because I tested it on 6,000 people. So that's the kind of thing I think trainers don't realize this, that they can actually do a lot of practice-based research.
Absolutely. And I love what you're saying. Everything seems to be evidence-based. Everything seems to stimulate this measurement culture that we need to do as trainers. And I think, again, you are, the global thought leader in that regard. So I think we certainly need to benchmark against your research excellence in that regard. Dr. Raman, let's move on. I think a very topical question right now is, of course, the COVID-19 global pandemic. You're based out in Singapore. I don't know to what extent this COVID-19 virus has impacted on your business model. You and I were chatting informally earlier on in the week, and you did say that Singapore is currently coming out of lockdown, which now enables you to spend some time with your family, your friends, to socialize, etc. But maybe you could just share us, what was your response to this COVID-19 and how did it impact on your business model, and any advice that you would share? Because I think a lot of trainers, in particular globally, are almost paralyzed. They really, their business model has been financially and economically crippled as a result of COVID-19. So how did you respond? And also, what advice would you share with trainers who may be grappling to come out of this COVID-19 global pandemic?
Thank you. Yeah, you mentioned it. Singapore just came out of lockdown last Friday. So this is this is the first day we are kind of experiencing it out of lockdown. So you just caught me at the right moment. So yeah, the COVID-19 has taken a drastic toll on everyone's life, business, personal, professional, education, and whatnot. It's indeed unprecedented, as we know. Surprisingly, COVID-19 seems to have impacted me mostly positively. I'm going to share how. I'm going to share, and maybe should be able to share with you my thought process as well, part of that one. But no, as you said, I'm in Singapore. So you know that Singapore was the first country outside China to get hit with this virus. And we were into this cycle long before any other country has seen. So we were in the middle of it. So anyway, despite that, it worked for me. So let me first share with you personally how I experienced through COVID-19. So the impact I saw on my personal plan is that several of my talks, which I was supposed to deliver on the conferences, those got hit. It also included my TEDx talk that I was about to deliver in March that got postponed. So at that point of time, while I was trying to get into this professional speaking space, so my efforts typically, kind of a little bit got impacted. But then a good thing happened. I kind of mastered this whole technology, equipment, and setup for virtual speaking. You know, how many challenges do we face with technology, given the distance and all the kind of the variables that come in picture. So I did some of the webinars using that technology. I even shared my elaborate setup on LinkedIn. So this I wanted to master, for a long while. I could never get a good handle, but I think COVID-19 gave me that opportunity to get better at technology. So that one thing that happened nice. And then there were a few other things that really worked very well for me, but because there were some triggers. I found that social media was becoming noisier during COVID 19. Everyone around me, and I'm pretty sure around you as well, somehow they transformed overnight into top notch crisis experts. And they started bombarded with the content telling you they got it all figured out and they are going to get you out of it. The massive number of posts, chats, webinar, and whatnot. I was completely put off by that. So the thing is, crisis is not new for me. As you know that I'm physically disabled from childhood, I walk with crutches. So every single day is crisis for me. So yet I don't dare to become a crisis expert of any kind. So anyway, that was a side story. So imagine every day you get 100 posts in your feed, messages, proportional messages to teach you about the crisis. People don't stop. So instead of bearing that pain, I took a social media break. It might seem like a suicide. Everyone's saying that now is the time to go virtual. Put your video out there, put your posts out there, get and stay visible. Many people are consuming more content. That was the argument. So those kind of things they were saying, but instead I took the social media break and I finished writing 3 books. And that has brought me closer to my target of 20 books out there in the market. Now imagine, I generated something that's going to stay here for 10, 20 years. Evergreen content, right? Nothing can beat a book. So you see, it worked for my personal front just because I kind of taken a diversion during that social media period. I didn't want to, want my idea to get tarnished with all that was going on in the social media. So I think part of this one is as a learning professional, we learn fast and we come up strong in any such setback, don't we? So that was one thing that worked well personally for me. From an employment standpoint, professional standpoint, as I said in my introduction, that I'm managing a large training center in a semiconductor space. So we do complex training, usually hands-on, instructor-led, in-person technical training. All that required the global engineers traveling down to our training centers. However, that wasn't possible during COVID-19. So now, beauty about being a learning professional is that we're flexible. We find ways to do things differently, don't we? So what we did is we put across remote learning via video camera mounted headgear, and we combined with the AR technologies, and then we started teaching troubleshooting, very, very complex troubleshooting to our engineers remotely in a live feed fashion. And this change came in just in few weeks at a rapid pace. And these things we wanted to do for last 10 years. And it has taken us endless number of proposals, experiment, funding requests, and all that. And it happened in just few weeks. So just imagine that we were riding on that wave we wanted to, just because of this COVID-19 situation. Of course, there are some compromises in hands-on training. It may not be ideal, but at least the people who were there in those countries couldn't travel. They could learn about those equipment remotely. Um, so I think it gave us some long-term confidence that anything can be taught using technology virtually, provided we set it right. So my advice to training community is that training and learning is an evergreen field. It's going to stay relevant no matter what kind of universe we live in. To tell you the truth, it is recession proof. And on top of that, it's more relevant and necessary during such times as COVID or any other pandemic. If not face to face, it will go virtual. It doesn't matter. The foundational principles stay the same. So gear your energy toward adding value in different ways of delivering training. Also, I would say now it is a time that training folks would need to think beyond designing intervention and probably focus on total ecosystem within which learning happens. Learning doesn't happen always in the classroom. Learning can happen in the field. Learning can happen with mentors and coaches. So some of the questions training community at this point of time within this COVID period should ask and reflect upon: can you do it self-paced without needing a trainer? Can a person learn the task simply by observing a mentor? Can people do tasks in the field using documentation or video? Can video, AR, VR, or other technology guide people to do the task they need to do? Can we provide checklist, job aid, or performance support system instead? Fundamentally, training and learning professionals need to stay down to basics. That's my belief. Because no matter what technology space comes in future, the basic will stay same. Just focus on the layers of training and learning, intervention, and how you are going to design those layers while leveraging resources, technologies, infrastructure, tools, or even mentors or peers around you, whatever is available at that point of time. So I think these are my couple of lessons I learned during this COVID-19 period. It can work wonder for you, provided you really stay to your basics.
Yeah, that's very powerful. Thank you for sharing that with us. Love your response. I think a lot of us, like I said, almost paralyzed like a deer caught in the headlights. COVID-19 is the end of the industry. And I love your positivity about, the business model of learning and development is evergreen. There'll always be a need for it, but we need to stay relevant. This is what I noted. We need to stay relevant as an industry. We need to stay on the cutting edge of the latest developments. We need to be agile. I think I heard you say that very clearly. Providing this digital remote learning solution. So solving problems, organizational problems, I think that is the next frontier of a training professional. And I think you repeatedly use the word professional. I think when you're professional, you have a different mindset, you have a different attitude, you have a different toolkit. You're not just there to react to a crisis in this case. And it's really business as usual. I think that is a very powerful lesson.
That's right.
Thank you. Dr. Raman, let's move over to your professional service offering. So if you could just give us an idea of your professional service offering, what you currently offer, and also what are some of the projects that you're currently working on. And also the first time I'd like to share your contact details as well. So once you've given us a quick overview of your professional service offering and your projects that you're currently working on, let's also share your contact details and also your social media presence. I know you initially went, into hibernation in that regard when there was so much noise and clutter, and rightfully so. But I think you've resurfaced and you have a very powerful presence and identity on social media.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, Dr. Cotter, I'm working on several things now, but for this conversation, I'm going to mention something which I have been working for last several years. Way back when I was doing my doctorate, I established a research forum Its name is Speed to Proficiency. So as the name suggests, the focus was to compile and disseminate research on accelerating proficiency. Over the year, as scope has expanded to include personal performance as well. So to just set the context that what exactly it is, today's world is moving so fast that we need employees and professionals to become good in their job, role, new product, or new services in a shorter amount of time. So there is a direct, unquestionable value of shortening time to proficiency. So this process is basically what we call as speed to proficiency, and that has been focus of my doctorate research. And I thought this is a high value area because time is money in organization, and organizations are striving for efficiency. And we have seen in this pandemic now that's very important for us to resurface back again at a much faster speed because now the world is going to be different. New technology, new solution, new product line, and probably new way of thinking about the solutions. So people need to become good in those things in a shorter time. So this is all about the speed to proficiency forum, which I had actually set up. And I wanted to share with the world this niche know-how. When I was doing research, I realized managers and leaders, they want to do it, but they don't know where is the proven evidence-based content or research. So I thought I'm gonna, put together all the research at one place, make it freely available to training and learning community as well as corporations. So I set up that forum. My long-term plan is to get the like-minded people who have keen interest in working on the areas of accelerated proficiency, speeding up the expertise, or any allied area related to speed and time. So I wanted to make a league of experts so that we can build a sort of forum, virtual summit, or a kind of a one-stop solution or people where people can actually go to learn this amazing area. It got a lot of business value also, but my main focus is on the learning. And you're asking me what professional services I do offer. In reality, my professional services are all grounded in research. It's all related to learning. So I basically focus on three areas, as you have put up on the slide. Number one is the workforce proficiency. So what I offer is research-based proven practices, strategies, solutions to organizations to help them reduce time to proficiency of their workforce. The foundational goal of the framework which I offer, they help them ramp up their workforce for a new technology or for a new role or could be for a new product. So I have done extensive research. So as I said on this forum is available on speedtoproficiency.com. So any of your audience can actually freely go read the articles and the research reports. So this is available to organization as well. So that's the first area I typically offer my advisory. And the second area which I always loved is the problem solving, complex learning. Today, technology and business is becoming increasingly complex. Not just the complex technology, but also the complex interaction within the team, outside the team, with the client, with the customer. So the complex skill acquisition is very slow process, but we need in today's world to accelerate it. So that's where I help organization and professional accelerate that learning curve to acquire highly complex skills, such as decision making, troubleshooting, technical problem solving. So my work has been around this area for many, many years. The third thing which I offer, it's basically very close to my heart. As you see that I'm disabled, but despite that, I have gone through a process. I kind of defied a lot of odds. I also built up my own models in regards to how you can, earn that kind of educational credential. How can you really, accelerate your own learning? How you can, set up your performance for success. So combining the engineer, scientist, and learning specialist inside me. So I kind of developed something which I think can give a lot of self clarity to people. What I believe is clarity is very important when it comes to personal performance. So that's the area which is pretty close to my heart, and I kind of teach people how do you strive a resonance or a balance or harmony between your personal and professional performance. So again, how to achieve that point in your life at an accelerator rate? That's where basically I kind of position myself. I know it's a lot to absorb, but I highly encourage your audience. They can contact me there are a lot of places they can reach out to me. I would recommend they could potentially go to speedtoproficiency.com where they can get the research freely there. I keep putting some new books, new research reports out there. I keep writing lots of articles, and now I started putting some videos. But otherwise, people are welcome to link up with me on LinkedIn or Facebook or Twitter, or can even drop me an email at ramankatri.com. So that's how people can actually reach out, and I would love to really extend what I know. As I said, I love sharing. So it will be my pleasure to, if something can work for
Yeah, lovely. Thanks, Dr. Raman. I think just as you were just giving us a quick overview of your bouquet of professional services, I just jotted down a couple of things. For me, what makes your offering very cutting edge, just in time, everything that you do is rooted in research, using scientific principles and processes. I love what you said about creating this community of practice, like-minded professionals, experts, collaborating with them. I think that really enhances the impact of your professional service offering. And like you repeatedly said, everything seems to be solutions focused. It's precise and it's geared towards solving organizational problems, speed to proficiency, complex learning, and also performance enhancement, both at an individual but also at a professional level. I think that's very important. And like you said repeatedly, I'm drawing inspiration from the fact that your disability hasn't disqualified you from being a global thought leader. You've really excelled, and you have used that as a basis of empowering not only yourself but empowering the community, the professional community, but the various learners and the managers that you work with on a direct basis. So thank you for that. I think it's a very powerful message. So Dr. Raman has shared his contact details. I will put up a slide again at the end of talking to the Titans of Training at the end of this episode, and also like he's alluded to, his social media presence. You'll find him on LinkedIn, you'll find him on Twitter, the company page, etc. So I think reach out to Dr. Raman, and the generosity that comes out very clearly, his willingness to share his expertise and to share his knowledge and his experience, dual doctorate, 3 master's degrees. I don't think you can put a price tag on that. Okay, that's fantastic. So Dr. Raman, let's move up towards wrapping up the conversation. I think it's been very enlightening. Maybe just if you could share your advice to maybe 2 different profiles, maybe my profile initially, so people that are well established in the training industry. What advice would you give to them so that they can prosper and excel in this industry? Thinking about people who may be stuck in a job right now where they have a low sense of appreciation, they want to make a greater impact. What advice would you share with them? And then also those people who are looking to break into the global training industry, what general advice would you share with them so that they can make their mark in the industry, so they, similar to yourself, can also distinguish themselves in this ultra-competitive, cutthroat global talent development industry?
they know that the learning and training field simply have been growing at an exponential rate because all these sub branches like speakers, author, consultant, trainer, coaches, even teachers basically all fall in this space. So as far as established trainers are concerned, the learning and development space has become very competitive. Unless you are the best, you stay confined to your classroom or course. It's imperative that you translate your expertise into leadership. Now, in the name of leadership, I see something less productive being practiced by senior L&D folks. Ironically, this social media has made L&D specialists as more noisier, less relevant, and less evergreen, because there are millions of them and all of them are in the race of throwing the random content on others. And this content is like posts, videos, tweets, all sort of short-lived content. I'm not saying it's wrong or not working. It has worked wonders for many. It's probably okay to create such short-lived content to expand your reach, get more followers. But as senior learning and development professional, you need to know that your true leadership in learning space does not get recognized with small learning nuggets, but it becomes because of your ability to create long-term changes in people. Then why not follow same grooming and translate your learning into evergreen content like a book, which people can read for 10 years later, no matter what technology. Imagine Dale Carnegie's book, even after 40 years, we're still reading it, isn't it? So that's the evergreen content I think learning and development professionals, and particularly the seasoned professionals, can really put up because they got decades and decades of experience which they can sum up. So if you have accumulated wisdom worth hearing about, go on, put it in a book, make it immortal. Your book can probably change the life of those who truly respect and value learning. You would no longer be at the mercy of swiping thumb to stay relevant and known to the world. You see, these days thumb is a dangerous thing, right? If you don't catch the attention of the thumb, you're gone. So if you need help in that direction, I can share something. It's completely free, by the way. I just delivered a session to senior leaders and speakers, and it was very well taken. I shared my own experience of writing 20 books, and I talk about how to get your books out. I'm going to run a few more free sessions. I would love to see more senior learning and development folks in those sessions so that I can make my knowledge more relevant to them. So you can contact me if you want any help in that direction. If you have any interest in participating such session, I normally run one session only one time. I don't repeat it. But if we have some really interested senior learning development professionals and leaders, I won't mind running it again on request. And if you are a senior professional in learning, development, training, development or performance, or even instruction design space, you need to rise faster in your leadership. But ironically, you see, despite you being in this space for several years, you would probably not have seen a research-based leadership model of learning and training professional exclusively. I think that is also a problem. Problem is we follow unverified wisdom sometimes, right? People who accumulate wisdom based on their limited experience sometimes and they feel is universal. What works in your setting may not work in other people's setting unless we have a correct sample size, unless it is more representative and relevant. So I think that is also one of the things you might want to see. I have a book called Accelerate Your Leadership in Training and Learning Domain. So in that book, I shared a research-based model. I'm working on a second version of that book. It's called Leading Learning by Following Learning. So it's a model, I think, which possibly is very true to people's heart, those who are in learning and training industry for very, very long time. All right. So also, I'm running a free session, by the way. I'm running a free session coming Saturday, 27 June, 3 p.m. Singapore time. So if you look for Eventbrite, you can search that information. If you're interested, join the session. I guarantee you're going to walk out with a lot more research-based models compared to what you have been reading so far. Now, that was my kind of directions, or I would say some suggestions for senior folks. For new folks, I think it's going to be a different set of advice I'm going to give them. As I said that when I went through my own journey of learning, I did not have any mentor. I didn't have any support. So I have made it a point to spend a couple of hours every month to coach new training and learning professionals. So I basically coach them how to become training and learning leader, how to think beyond your job. Feel free to contact me if you feel that you're going to need any help or any tips in that direction. But I'm going to share some tips here. Okay. Number one, it's my observation that new folks tend to start with the presentation. They feel they get misled that making presentation is training. Making slides and presenting slides is not training. Telling is or presenting is not training, as you know, Dr. Cotter. So training must demonstrate acquisition of new skills and knowledge. There need to be evidence. So we need to take a step forward. Training is also not learning. In training, we try to build the skills of people, but unless there is a change in behavior, transfer of their to their job, daily life, there is no learning that occurs. Learning comes or gives a long-term behavior change based on the skills we acquire in training. So I think this distinction does not come easily to the new folks. So time is now to focus on learning. But I want to caution new folks further that the learning itself is not performance either. So according to another research, our full learning does not get translated into performance. So there are several things in our ecosystem, tools, condition, resources somebody need to use to translate into performance. So for new folks, my advice would be you got to be very clear about what goal is when you design or deliver a program. Are you targeting training? Are you targeting learning? Are you targeting performance? So be clear about that. That might be a good starting point for you to establish long-term leadership. My second tip would be um, training, learning, and performance all are grounded in science, like how they really work. But it is art when it comes to delivery. So to deliver learning is one of the hardest, of course, very rewarding, but very difficult task. You need to be able to understand how information need to be layered, structured depending upon your learners, how incrementally they understand and how they gain the wisdom in whatever you are sharing. So if you are a new folk in a training space, invest some time understanding foundational research, not a high-end research, but very classic foundational research, what works and what does not. Be prepared to think in terms of human emotion. Spend time on how brain works and how learning happens in different people, and be prepared to kind of evolve some systematic framework based on that. So one of the things I said here is emotion. I think with the new folks, that's the problem. They think emotion is something outside learning that has nothing to do with learning. So they tend to avoid or tend to forget that piece. It plays a great role in learning. So once we design systematically considering emotion, I think the learning goes a long way for your learners. So so these are basically two tips I typically give to the new people, those who are just going to get into training industry, because what I believe is the kind of coaching they're going to get that may derail them from the fundamentals. So if they focus on the foundational things, they are going to stay on that course in building their leadership for a long term.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for sharing that with us, Dr. Raman. It's excellent advice, both for the established trainer, but also the novice that wants to break into the industry. And I think you've made it very clear the distinction, which is good advice for established trainers as well, between performance, learning, and training. I think we often don't see those interdependencies. We don't see the medium to long-term picture. It's always about, the next training gig, the next training assignment. And we need to have almost like a conceptual perspective of how the fundamentals can then be captured through this scientific and research-based process into something meaningful and something valuable. And like you correctly said, don't underestimate the social, but also the emotional subcomponents of the learning equation. I think that's excellent professional, but also good career advice for a lot of us. So thank you for that. Dr. Raman, if you could just ask for the last time as we start closing up and wrapping up, if you could just quickly remind us how we can contact you for any of the services that you're currently offering.
I think I'm almost on some of the main social media, but the best way to contact me is send me an email, rkattri@ramankatri.com. That's my personal website. And otherwise, feel free to link up with me on LinkedIn. That's the place I think that where keep sharing a lot of things and give a lot of pointers and about my new events as well. So that's the best way to reach.
Great, great. Thank you, Raman. It's been an absolute pleasure. You are indeed a treasure trove of knowledge and experience and wisdom. I really do appreciate your time, your willingness to share with us and to share with the listeners and the viewers of Talking to the Titans of Training. You indeed, sir, are a titan of training, and I really do value your contribution to the industry. Long may you continue to prosper, and long may you continue to preach this very powerful message of transformation and the professionalization within the industry. So, any of our viewers, if you'd like to contact Dr. Raman, please feel free to do so. You have his contact details within his scope of subject matter expertise. And I'm especially interested in this free service offering of capturing our knowledge and our experience and writing a book. I think that is going to enhance and entrench our legacy, not only as a trainer, but more especially as a learning and development professional. So thank you, and enjoy the freedom that you have in Singapore now that the lockdown restrictions are over. And certainly I will continue to support your initiatives and your events on social media. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Cotter. It has been my pleasure to be on your show. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
It's a great pleasure. All right. You keep well, and please stay safe.
All right. Thank you so much. You too. Appreciate it.
Well, bye-bye.
Yeah. Yeah.
So from my side, this is Dr. Charles Cotter signing out. I'd just like to remind you of my 5 pillars of training subject matter expertise. You'll find me as a blended learning practitioner. I still continue to offer face-to-face training, but as Dr. Raman has indicated, we have all migrated to digital or virtual trainers. So strategic HRM, strategic learning and development, management and leadership development, power skills, and also business communication. Similar to Dr. Raman, you'll also find me very active on social media. So I've given you my cell phone number, my email address. Also, you'll find me very active on LinkedIn and Twitter. I've given you my Twitter handle, also my Facebook company page, and also the portfolio of slideshow presentations, which you'll find on SlideShare. Also want to remind you that I'm an accredited trusted trainer as endorsed by the global quality assurance body, Course Conductor. Also, if you could like this video clip, also subscribe to our YouTube channel, and I look forward to the subsequent episodes of Talking to the Titans of Training. This is Dr. Charles Cotter from Pretoria, South Africa, signing out. We've got a couple of very interesting guests lined up, and I'd just like to again thank you, Dr. Raman Attri, for his willingness to share and contribute all the way from Singapore. Thank you, and keep well.